It's 7 p.m. Friday, May 24th here in Seoul.
These are the top stories at this hour. Seoul receives its first heat wave advisory of the year as sweltering conditions continue to grip the nation. Ozone warnings were also issued for some parts of the country.
Tensions flare up between the top diplomats of South Korea and Japan as the issue of forced labor proves to be a thorny subject in their meeting. We have the details.
British Prime Minister Theresa May says she will resign on June 7th. In an emotional address, she expresses regret for not being able to deliver Brexit.
And the Trump administration threatens to slap tariffs on goods from countries that undervalue their currencies. We look at the impact such a move would have on South Korea, which is in Washington's crosshairs. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center. I'm Han-Dan in Seoul.
And I'm Noaram. Thank you as always for joining us this evening. Now, it seems summer has come early here in Korea with this year's first heat wave advisory being issued for Seoul today.
Many southern regions are also suffering under scorching conditions coupled with high ozone levels. Our Yoon Jung-min starts us off.
Most regions in South Korea, particularly the capital Seoul, experienced high temperatures and bad levels of ozone during the daytime on Friday. A heat wave advisory was issued in the capital for the first time this year with temperatures soaring to 33 degrees Celsius. Ozone advisories were issued in all 25 of Seoul's districts.
It's so hot and hard to walk along the street.
It's unexpectedly hot, which makes me sweat and get tired even after a short walk.
Korea is having unusually high temperatures for May and bad ozone levels. Many citizens are wearing short-sleeved tops and even carrying parasols to keep them out of the sun. Most other parts of the country also experienced scorching weather, including Gyeonggi-do Province, southern regions of Gyeongsang-do Province, Jeollado Province, and eastern Gangwon-do Province. The Korea Meteorological Administration issues heat wave advisories when daily highs above 33 degrees Celsius are expected to last for more than 2 consecutive days. There were also high levels of fine dust across the country. High temperatures are expected to linger until this weekend. The weather agency advised citizens, especially children and the elderly, to stay indoors to avoid the heat and bad ozone levels. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
As we've seen in our previous report, it's been unseasonably hot today, and already consumers are spending on products that could beat the heat. Taking the chance, Korean firms are rolling out clever products that could help consumers take respite from the heat. Our Ko Ryun-hee tells us more.
Temperatures recently have been higher than the same period last year, causing consumers to open their wallets to try and get some relief from the heat. E-Mart, one of the largest retailers in Korea, has seen higher sales of its summer-related products so far this year. During the first 16 days of May, sales of air conditioners jumped by more than 60%. And the figures also increased for watermelons and ice cream.
It's getting hot, so I came here to buy a watermelon for my family. It's good to see some promotions going on.
A lot of customers are buying air conditioners these days. I think it's because they're purchasing the products in advance before it gets too hot like last summer.
Some new products have hit the market that claim to help consumers beat the heat. One brand that makes sports garments came up with a special fabric that provides a cool feeling when it comes into contact with moisture such as sweat. Their new products include stylish polo shirts and mesh jeans. A manager at this company shared their marketing plans for the future.
We're planning to hold events so we can meet potential customers face-to-face. Also, we plan to work with YouTube creators involved in outdoor activities so they can share their positive experiences after wearing our clothes.
Major ramen companies have also introduced new cold and spicy noodles with seaweed. This not only adds chewiness to the noodles, but satisfies people wanting to add some kind of healthy elements to their snack. And many YouTubers that review food in Korea are helping consumers in terms of narrowing down the various choices.
I try to explain the taste of the sauce or the quality of the noodles in detail. Because I also touch on the spiciness of the products, viewers can choose the products accordingly.
Experts say the hot weather has both positive and negative effects on the economy. It can boost consumption, but if the scorching heat continues for a long time, it can decrease overall labor productivity. 고르니, Arirang News.
Major breaking news from the UK. Prime Minister Theresa May announced that she will step down on June 7th. The announcement comes on the heels of numerous failed attempts by May to come up with a Brexit plan that would earn support from Parliament. The Conservative leadership contest to choose May's successor will begin the week after her departure. Until then, the Prime Minister will work on the remainder of her state affairs agenda, including hosting U.S. President Trump's state visit. After canceling planned meetings with South Korean civic groups in China at the last minute, one of the North Korean groups showed up and told the South Koreans they had to cancel the meetings because they felt the objectives were being distorted. Our Oh Jung-hee explains further on the confusion surrounding the civic-level meetings and North Korea's possible intentions.
After abruptly calling off scheduled meetings with 3 South Korean civic groups, the North Korean Committee for Implementation of the June 15th Joint Declaration spoke face-to-face with its South Korean counterpart on Thursday. According to the South Korean Implementation Committee, the North said they had to cancel the planned meetings because the objectives were being distorted through the South Korea media. The group added they wanted to discuss ways to resolve the current impasse in inter-Korean relations, but the South Korean media were highlighting some other, quote, secondary issues. The meetings that 2 other civic groups, the Korean Council for Reconciliation and Cooperation and Movement for One Korea, were supposed to have with their North Korean counterparts remain canceled. The South Korean committee added that they agreed they face a, quote, grave situation now where inter-Korean ties could either move forward or make a U-turn back to the past. The groups promised to sincerely implement inter-Korean summit declarations, quote, autonomously. The word autonomous is a term North Korea uses to urge the South to stop heeding what the U.S. thinks and cooperating with the North. Experts say that the overall deadlock in North Korea-U.S. nuclear talks and Pyongyang's discontent towards Seoul lie behind the last-minute cancellation of the meetings.
The North is not satisfied with how South Korea isn't starting cooperation projects with the North and continues to stand alongside the US and keep mediating.
It seems the North was dissatisfied with the reports in South Korea, which depicted the North as if it would come back to the negotiation table if food aid or humanitarian aid is offered and civic exchanges take place.
U.S. seizure of a North Korean ship, Wise Honest, could also be the factor. The North called for the meeting with South Korean civic groups earlier this month, but with the ship seized afterwards, watchers say Pyongyang turned its back to express discontent towards Seoul. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Of the $8 million in aid South Korea is planning to provide to the North, UNICEF will reportedly be handling $3.5 million of it, or 44%. Voice of America quoted UNICEF spokesperson Shima Izam as saying Thursday that the UN agency welcomes what she called Seoul's generous donation. The organization will use the funds to treat 450,000 North Korean children under the age of 5 suffering from diarrhea and pneumonia. However, she did not disclose how the money is going to be divided or monitored. The South Korean government said earlier this month that it'll donate the $8 million to the World Food Program and UNICEF for projects in North Korea to help with nutrition and the health of mothers and children. Seoul's foreign ministry has launched an investigation into the South Korean embassy in Washington after a diplomat there leaked details of a phone conversation between President Moon Jae-in and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump to an opposition lawmaker. Earlier this month, Kang Hyo-sang, a lawmaker of the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, said that Moon had asked Trump to visit Seoul immediately after his trip to Japan. The diplomat who gave the information to Kang has been suspended from his duties. The Blue House called it a serious matter and a leak of state secrets, adding that appropriate legal action will be taken. The ruling Democratic Party, meanwhile, has filed a complaint against Kang, saying he has hurt the national interest by publicizing the information. The main opposition party, to which Kang belongs, said that the people have the right to know what the two leaders discussed, and instead demanded an apology from the Blue House for first denying his claim and now calling it a leak of state secrets. Now to the latest on murky South Korea-Japan relations. With the issue of the forced labor rulings still unresolved, a meeting Thursday between the foreign ministers of the two nations appears to have been tense. And the top Japanese diplomat made some remarks that are now being labeled as a diplomatic faux pas here in Korea. Our Lee Ji-won has more.
The foreign ministers of Seoul and Tokyo met in Paris on Thursday on the sidelines of an OECD meeting, where they discussed issues including the rulings on Japan's use of Koreans for forced labor before and during World War II.
I hope to have an honest and productive discussion with you, Minister, on how we can wisely manage our ties.
Things got tense, though, as the Japanese foreign minister criticized a Seoul foreign ministry spokesperson for having said earlier in the day that there would be no problem if the Japanese companies would follow the Korean court's orders and compensate their victims.
For him to have said that is a serious failure to understand the gravity of the issue. This is the kind of thing that complicates our ties.
In 2018, South Korea's Supreme Court ordered two Japanese companies, Nippon Steel and Sumitomo Metal Corporation and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, to compensate the Koreans they forced into labor. Tokyo argues that the issue was resolved in 1965 when the two sides signed an agreement normalizing their ties. Japan has asked the South Korean government to intervene, but Seoul says it respects the independence of the courts. And to Tokyo's request to an arbitration by a third country, it says it is reviewing it. But in Thursday's meeting, Japan went a step further and targeted the South Korean president. According to NHK, Kono reportedly told Kang that unless President Moon Jae-in takes responsibility and finds a solution, the issue will not be resolved. Minister Kang, for her part, called for the use of prudent words, but it's not clear if that was before Kono's remarks or in response to them. Kono had made a similarly indirect demand of President Moon in a briefing earlier in the week, and it was seen as a diplomatic faux pas for an official of one country to blame and urge action on another state's leader. After their meeting, Kono told reporters that Japan cannot allow Seoul to continue what he called its violation of international laws, and that he hopes Seoul will find a solution possibly before the G20 summit in Osaka at the end of June. Minister Kang, meanwhile, said the two sides should stay in close communication and urged Japan to do more to heal the wounds of the victims. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Seoul's trade minister has urged Tokyo to accept the World Trade Organization's ruling in favor of Korea's import restrictions on Japanese seafood. Following the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, Seoul has placed import restrictions on 28 kinds of fish. Minister Yoon Myung-hee's remarks came during an informal trade ministerial meeting at the WTO in France earlier this week. She said it is unfair for Japan to keep raising issues about the decision and added that Tokyo's urge to reform the WTO's appellate body is inappropriate. The Trump administration is proposing tariffs on goods from countries found to have undervalued currencies. The move is aimed at nations such as South Korea and China and could hamper ongoing Washington-Beijing trade talks. Kim Es-hung has more.
The U.S. Commerce Department said Thursday that it's proposing a new rule to impose tariffs on goods from countries found to have undervalued currencies. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said in a statement that the new rule would put foreign exporters on notice that the U.S. can countervail currency subsidies that harm its industries. He added that foreign nations would no longer be able to use currency policies to the disadvantage of American workers and businesses. President Donald Trump has long threatened to label China a currency manipulator, saying undervaluing the yuan against the greenback made Chinese goods artificially cheaper abroad. But the new rule could also put goods from other countries, including South Korea, Japan, India, Germany, and Switzerland, at risk of higher tariffs. Those 5 countries, along with China, were all listed on the Treasury Department's semi-annual currency reports monitoring list, which tracks currency market interventions, high global current account surpluses, and high bilateral trade surpluses. The Treasury Department was expected to release its biannual currency report in April, but it has yet to do so. The latest announcement by the U.S. Commerce Department puts further pressure on Beijing amid escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China as they work on a trade deal. The Chinese yuan has weakened more than 3% this month to near 7 yuan a dollar. The Commerce Department did not yet outline the specific criteria that it would use to evaluate whether the U.S. pricing of a product was artificially low because of currency undervaluation. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's exports were down in April in terms of price, but they were up in terms of volume. Semiconductors, meanwhile, continued to weigh on exports, and Korea's overall terms of trade last month got worse. Kan Young-woo reports.
South Korea's export price index has fallen for the 5th consecutive month. According to the Bank of Korea on Friday, the export value index, which measures fluctuations in the prices of outbound shipments, tumbled 4.2% on-year in April. This comes despite a rebound in the export volume index, which measures changes in the amount of goods exported. The export volume index for April jumped 2.4% on-year after falling for 4 straight months. While the export volume for electronic equipment went up thanks to more smartphone shipments, prices of electronic equipment plunged 12% on-year in April due to falling semiconductor prices. Both export volume and prices for goods like machinery, transportation equipment went up on growing plant and auto exports. The import volume index and import value index increased 1.6% on-year in April, thanks to more agricultural goods imports and primary metal imports. Overall, South Korea's terms of trade, which measured the amount of imports a country can purchase for each unit of exports relative to the base year of 2010, slumped more than 6% on-year in April, worsening for the 17th month in a row. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
Now, May is dubbed as Family Month here in Korea, with many dates set for spending time with our loved ones. To mark Family Month, we've been running a series of reports this week covering various aspects of family life in the country. And tonight we have our Oh Soo-young here in the studio with us. Soo-young, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Now, so we've been doing these series, and there's a lot of days in May that are marked to celebrate this month and to be close to our nearest and dearest.
That's right. The United Nations actually since 1993 has marked May 15th as the Day of Family for countries all over the world. But Korea is quite exceptional in the fact that it celebrates various aspects and members of family throughout the whole month of May. We start with Children's Day on May 5th, when children receive presents or pocket money from their parents, and a day off from school as it's a national holiday. Then on May 8th, we observe Parents' Day, which unfortunately isn't a national holiday, but it's still quite an important day on the calendar. Many other countries around the world celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day, as you probably know, which are normally in May as well. And earlier this week, we also had a Coming of Age Day, which is when we congratulate young Koreans who turn 20 years old that year, as this was traditionally seen as the start of adulthood. They're given symbolic gifts of roses and perfume. Tuesday was a day for couples celebrating marriage in the country. So as you can see, May is all about family and expressing your appreciation and gratitude to your loved ones.
Right, so there is a lot of celebration for all members of the family. Now, Family Month is something that is particularly unique to Korea. And I assume the emphasis on family comes from the traditionally cultivist culture?
Yes, that's right. Given Korea's traditionally agrarian society, family units have been very closely knit throughout countless of countless generations, and they've also been defined by the Confucian order of relationships. And under this patriarchal system, the husband or the father was the ultimate decision maker in a home, and the mother, of course, was the caring homemaker. The children were expected to be obedient and reverent of their elders. Of course, in modern times, after the Korean War, this hierarchical convention has shifted to a more modern family dynamics. There are much fewer extended families living together, as family units are now mostly nuclear families, and even those are declining. And in recent years, we've seen a surge in the number of people living alone. Not only that, but women have gained much more status and power in society, and couples are now sharing decision-making and income earning as well. Their children are also becoming more individualistic.
Right, and I suppose that is more reason to observe this month for families, right?
That's right. As much as the significance of family was very pronounced in Korean culture, sociologists say that we really need to expand and update the term to make it more contemporary.
In both Eastern and Western cultures, there were some negative aspects to family-centred societies, such as patriarchal dominance. However, with growing social diversity and gender equality, the meaning of family is also changing. It no longer focuses on bloodline or heritage, but it's branching out to various forms where people care for one another.
We still haven't fully broken away from the idea of a family led by a strong, capable man, a devoted homemaker, and children who excel academically. The relationship is still functional, and there isn't enough consideration about how conflicts or violence may arise from this order. There are also social minorities and new forms of family. During this month especially, we should consider our level of acceptance and support for them, both socially and legally.
So that's really why this week, with the special series on Family Month, we took a look at the more excluded members of Korean society, including those with disabilities, multicultural families and single parents as well. Now, I'm quite happy to say that Korea, for the first time, marked and celebrated a special day for single parent families this year. So that's one of the very encouraging signs that Korea is really taking active steps to make sure that all members of society are included and that they're receiving the support that they need.
Well, that is great to hear. Thank you, Seung, for coming in today. That's all the time we have for now.
Thank you, Adam.
President Moon is calling for the development of new technologies to help Korea's farmers as society gets older and they find themselves short of help in the field. The president today was visiting farmers in a village in Korea's southeast where he helped them plant rice. He also checked out agricultural drones and automated rice planting machines, the kind of things that Korea will need. The president was near the historic city of Gyeongju in Oksan village, which is home to some 200 national treasures, and also the site of the Oksan Seoul, a Confucian school dating back centuries that's been recommended for the UNESCO World Heritage List. He went there to encourage the local farmers. They ate noodles together and drank the traditional rice wine, makgeolli. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has won the 2019 general election, claiming an absolute majority for his party in the lower house of the parliament.
If anyone has won, it's India. If anyone has won, it's the democracy. If anyone has won, it's the people of India. So all of us, Bharatiya Janata Party workers and our partners in the National Democratic Alliance dedicate this win to the public.
The Election Commission of India's data shows around 67% of more than 900 million eligible voters cast their ballots in the election to make Modi the first non-Congress prime minister in India to return to power after a full 5-year term. Modi's party now claims about 55% of the 543 seats available in the lower house. President Moon Jae-in posted a congratulatory message on his Facebook this afternoon, saying that the people of India elected a leader who will help the country truly flourish. This year marks the 5th anniversary of the official opening of one of Seoul's landmarks, Dongdaemun Design Plaza. And to mark the occasion, they've opened up some of the building's hidden spaces to the public. Our Lee Min-sun takes us there.
The giant grey architectural work located in the Dongdaemun district of Seoul is one of the most well-recognized landmarks of the city. Dongdaemun Design Plaza, more commonly known as DDP, is the world's largest three-dimensional amorphous architecture designed by late architect Zaha Hadid. It's built with some 45,000 aluminum panels and has no straight lines or walls. Since its opening in 2014, DDP has been serving as a cultural hub, hosting 186 exhibitions and 478 events year-round. Asia's biggest fashion event, Seoul Fashion Week, is also held here twice a year, bringing in fashion lovers, designers, and buyers from all around the world.
DDP has become an international landmark. It is one of the most visited spots in Seoul by foreigners. We have had more visitors than we initially expected and have seen DDP contribute to the vitalization of surrounding shops.
To mark its 5th anniversary, DDP is offering special tours to 88 citizens inside the iconic building. Visitors will get a chance to see some hidden places that have never been opened for the public, including the control room, warehouse, and machine room. Passing through the back doors, visitors can peek at the behind-the-scenes operations that keep this giant piece of architecture running smoothly. People can get a better understanding of DDP's unique design by looking at the inside structure of the roof. At a space right below the roof, visitors can see the space frame that sustains the building without pillars. The highlight of the special tour is going up to the rooftop. The initial design of the building was supposed to allow the public access to the rooftop, but that changed when the ceiling got higher during the construction process. While wearing safety gear, visitors can get a rare panorama view of the Dongdaemun area. Although only 4 special tours are planned for the 5th anniversary, if there's more demand, it could become a regular program. Various exhibitions and events are also lined up to mark the occasion. Now being recognized as Global Design Hub, Dongdaemun Design Plaza hopes to expand its role in the local community and help local design businesses in the coming years. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has accused Huawei CEO of lying about the firm's ties with the Chinese government. In an interview with CNBC on Thursday, he also said he believes more American firms will cut ties with the Chinese tech giant following President Trump's trade ban. Huawei has repeatedly dismissed accusations that it is controlled by the Chinese government or military. The U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee has authorized a $750 billion defense budget that blocks any significant reduction of U.S. forces in South Korea. The bill states that at least 28,500 troops must be kept here due to what it calls continued threats from North Korea. That's 6,500 more troops than in the equivalent bill last year. The move is seen as a way of preventing President Trump from pulling American soldiers out of South Korea, which he has threatened to do after repeatedly complaining about military cost sharing. A new civilian military exercise will kick off in South Korea for 4 days starting Monday, aimed at preparing for disasters and terror threats. Seoul's Defense Ministry says the Ulji Taeguk exercise is an alternative to the previously held joint exercise with the US, the Ulji Freedom Guardian, which was suspended this year. The first part of the new exercise is dedicated to national crisis management, while the second is aimed at promoting wartime military readiness. North Korea is yet to confirm whether it will participate in a global swimming competition to be held in South Korea this summer. The executive director of the International Swimming Federation told reporters Thursday that North Korea had recently informed FINA that it wouldn't compete at the World Aquatics Championship in Gwangju. But he said then at a separate meeting that the North is not officially pulled out. FINA is keen for North Korea to take part and is willing to extend the June 12th registration deadline. That has been your 3-minute news flash.
temperatures continue to spike all across the nation. Seoul was issued with its first heat wave advisory this season.
Yes, that's right. And normally we wouldn't see today's daily highs until mid-summer, so quite early. For details on the weather, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Centre. Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Now, as the temperatures soar, the capital and its surrounding areas, as well as lots of southern regions, have been issued with heat wave alerts. Now, also some parts of Gangwon province on the east coast, which is affected by the westerly wind, is likely to be under a tropical night as the temperature is expected to exceed over 25 degrees Celsius tonight. And the heat wave alerts are expected to lift as of tomorrow evening, as our afternoon will be somewhat cool thanks to the blanket of clouds. Now, it will still be very warm though, with highs mostly reaching up into the 30s. The morning lows are warming up as well these days. Now, Seoul will begin tomorrow at 19 degrees Celsius, while Busan and Jeju will have the lows into the 20s now. And it won't be as hot as today for Seoul tomorrow, marking 31 degrees, whereas Gwangju and Chuncheon will be sweltering hot at 32 and 33 degrees respectively. The hot weekend weather will be relieved on Monday thanks to a downpour of showers across the nation. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That wraps it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you as always for watching.
Stay tuned to Arirang for more analysis on current issues on News in Depth coming up next.